Greetings, fellow video game lovers! I've thought about doing video game reviews on YouTube before, but not too many recently released games have grabbed my attention enough, until now. I've been playing this for a while now, and it's safe to say there's a lot to talk about, and a lot of the mainstream reviews kind of gloss over the details to give you just a very general overview, so I'm going to delve further into the inner mechanics of this game and give you hopefully a better picture of what it's like, and hopefully you'll want to play it too. So sit back, grab some snacks, and get your trigger thumbs ready. Now, before we do anything, I'd like to reassure you all that unlike most of the mainstream reviews, there will be absolutely no plot spoilers whatsoever, so come out from under the bed, it's safe to watch. Ni No Kuni is a Japanese RPG developed by two brilliant companies, Level 5, the people responsible for the Professor Layton series, and Studio Ghibli, who, as many of you will already know, are responsible for some of the most stunning and culturally groundbreaking anime that's ever existed. So far, this game's only become available worldwide for the PS3, which is a shame because people who aren't necessarily Sony lovers miss out. But at the same time, when you see the sheer calibre of the graphics and the game mechanics, you'd understand how hard it'd be to tailor it to the capabilities of each individual console and keep it looking and playing the same across all of them. There is a DS version, but I don't think it's available outside of Japan, and apparently it's quite different to the Ni No Kuni we all know and love, so looks like it's just PS3 for now. Anyway, let's dive into it, shall we? Ni No Kuni revolves around a young boy called Oliver who you control as he journeys through a magical parallel world in a quest to save the people he loves from the forces of evil. The plotline's well thought out, and as a result the story's always gripping, and you find yourself becoming genuinely emotionally invested in the characters and their development, and ultimately the fate of the world, which is so important to creating a game that people will treasure. Also, every character you meet along the way is their own person and quite charismatically three-dimensional to interact with. You don't feel like you're walking past clones of the same NPC every 2 seconds. And it's obvious how brilliantly the Level 5 Studio Ghibli partnership has worked, because there's a certain childlike innocence and wonder to Studio Ghibli films and their main protagonists that allow them to perceive things in a way that us as the viewers wouldn't, and this is what gets people so enamoured with Ghibli films. They can take uncomfortable themes like despair, personal struggles, and even death, and explore them in a way that brings out the goodness in everything, and it is no different in Ni No Kuni. Both the characters and the world itself are awash with colour and emotion, a great balance between darkness and light, and some pretty fantastic humour. It's just like being able to step into Howl's Moving Castle or Spirited Away and interact with everything. As cheesy as it sounds, it really does feel like there's magic in everything you touch. They have done a magnificent job. This also rings true in the graphics of the game, which are visually stunning, and sometimes during the cutscenes I forget I'm playing a game. It's very cinematic and textural, and everything behaves the way you'd expect it to, from wind blowing through trees to facial expressions. It's very natural and smooth, and I've never experienced any kind of visual bug or lag yet. And there's one brilliant detail that I will be eternally glad for. I'm sure this happens in a lot of games, but I personally noticed it a lot in the Dragon Age series, which I absolutely love, but how annoying is it when you walk into a cave or a back street or a combat zone and it's the same freaking one every time? Hate it when games just reuse the same piece of scenery for everything they can get it to fit to, but in true Studio Ghibli style, every scene in Ni No Kuni has been tailored for one place and one place only. I've never seen any scene repetition, and that is so refreshing, especially when you've been playing for hours on end and things can get really overfamiliar. Also, the soundtrack is sneaky in that it doesn't seem massively remarkable at first, but then all of a sudden you find yourself feeling the warm rushes of familiarity when certain area themes play, or getting pumped up when the battle theme starts. And soon enough you'll find yourself entering places and anticipating the theme before it starts, just like you do with Pallet Town and Hyrule Field. Okay, we've done enough Ghibli fangirling now, let's move on to the actual gameplay. Generally, Ni No Kuni is easy to play and not too hard to get the hang of. Your main companion, a particularly hilarious fairy called Drippy, acts as your guide and shows you how to do things along the way through hints and tutorials, so you never feel like you don't know what you're doing. The gameplay is quite typical of RPGs in that you're free to pursue the main events of the story at your own pace, and there are plenty of side quests to sink your teeth into if you'd rather explore and rack up some experience first. It doesn't just revolve around fighting either. You find yourself collecting objects to make things, farming ingredients for recipes, helping people with their personal problems, carrying out bounty hunts for rewards, and also solving puzzles that require a bit of logic and deeper thinking than just mashing the X button. Also, when it comes to exploring the world, the level of detail is huge. The in-game book, The Wizard's Companion, provides literally hours of literature on the history of the world, legends and lore, spells, food recipes, items and armour guides, fairy tales, geographical guides, and an entire bestiary whose creatures jump off the page and come to life when you zoom in. It's literally like sitting in the library at Hogwarts and studying up on everything you could possibly want to know about the wizarding world. When it comes to interaction and decision making, it's not like the Elder Scrolls and Dragon Age series, for example, where you're given multiple conversational options and you can choose to be good guy, bad guy. There's only one conversational path that leads to the next objective, and while this sounds restrictive, thankfully it's not. Just because the game has a master plan that I need to go along with doesn't personally make me feel like I'm just a pawn with no input. I can't really explain why, but it does make you feel involved and important in other ways. And to be honest, I've never disagreed with any decision that the game's made for me, and I find myself having the same moral desires and compulsions as the character anyway, so it's not really an issue. In a way, it's kind of a blessing because there's no chance of you accidentally making the wrong people angry and getting yourself into a potentially game-ruining mess, which is surprisingly easy to do with other RPGs that are more comprehensive when it comes to action and consequence. Okay, now that we've looked at the background stuff, let's take a look at the combat mechanics. As you wander the world, all kinds of creatures appear in their natural habitats, and once you get close enough for them to perceive you as a threat, they charge. Usually they'll meet you head on, but there's a great upper hand system in place. If they creep up on you from behind, they'll have the upper hand and you won't be able to react for the first couple of blows, and the situation's reversed if you manage to creep up on them. However, if your level is considerably higher than the creatures around you, they'll flee instead of fighting, which is kind of annoying if you're trying to level up for a big boss or something. More often than not, you'll battle multiple critters at once, which makes for an interesting fight and gives you more experience. All creatures have certain strengths and weaknesses that you can exploit to your advantage during battle. As you'd expect, all participants have health points, losing all of which will cause you to faint, and magic points, which allow you to cast spells and use other non-physical moves. Any party member who falls unconscious is instantly revived when the battle ends. However, if all party members fall, the game is through, and you're made to reload from the last save point minus 10% of your money. One really useful thing that happens during battle is that every so often opponents will drop little glowing orbs called glims, which will restore your health or magic points by a small amount when you pick them up, and there are even golden glims which when acquired will allow your character to perform a super powerful attack which could completely sway the battle in your favour. Once you gain some followers, you can switch between your party members and utilise each member's unique moves and capabilities to form the best defence. Navigating between characters and their menus is dead easy, and each member can also use items and any other special capabilities they might have. Not only is it a great battle technique to switch between characters and use certain attacks at the right time to really hit your opponent where it hurts, you can also set each character with predetermined tactics so you can do your own thing and trust your companions to heal, defend and support you accordingly. You can also cancel a move even after your character has already begun executing it, which allows you to react to sudden changes on the battlefield and get yourself out of some potentially nasty scrapes. Now, as you may have heard, people have been commenting that Ni No Kuni has a certain element of Pokemon to it, and here's where that comparison comes in. Your party can tame wild creatures and keep them as familiars who participate in battle. Familiars have their own range of capabilities, and like Pokemon type advantages, can prove really effective against certain opponents and not so good against others. In battle, familiars can enter the fray in your place and use their unique powers to your advantage. After a certain amount of time on the battlefield, they'll need to recharge. You can call them back and send out another familiar instead, or jump into the battle yourself. After a short break, your familiar will be recharged and ready to fight again. One really important detail that you have to keep in mind is that your familiars share the same health and magic points as you, so if they die, you die. I really don't think it should be that way, because the familiars are a different person to you, but that's the way it is, so when you send a familiar into battle, keep your eye on the health bar at all times, otherwise you're going to find yourself dying a lot more than you'd like. Another Pokemon-like element to familiars is that they have the ability to metamorphose into a more powerful version of themselves once they reach the right level and you give them the right metamorphosis stone. Sound familiar? This allows your pets to boost their power and learn better moves, and between levels you can feed them treats and snacks to boost their abilities and cause the friendship between you to grow. However, there is one mildly annoying thing about this. Metamorphosing your familiar to the next form automatically resets its level back to 1, meaning you have to level it all the way back up to where it was. It will be naturally more powerful, so it's not like you're taking a level 12 to the Elite 4 or anything, but you do just have to take it carefully until it catches back up, although when it does, you will be glad of the extra power. Physically and visually, battles can get pretty exciting. Unlike the sometimes stagnant turn-based battle style of games like Pokemon, Ni No Kuni is a real-time free-for-all where you can run around the battlefield and live it moment to moment, dodging and striking to your heart's content. And when there's loads of participants firing off slashing attacks and magical explosions everywhere, it can look pretty impressive and all in all quite enjoyable to be a part of. And finally, the longevity of Ni No Kuni is something that's been contested since its release, and ultimately I think it just comes down to what kind of gamer you are. If you like to race ahead with the plot straight away and just get to the end, you're probably going to feel bogged down by the game's natural pace and the fact that sometimes you do just have to train your party rather than ploughing ahead without a second thought. If you're interested in beating the game or just killing things, then it's probably too emotionally complex and you probably won't have the patience to stick it out. Also, despite appearances with the anime graphics and the childlike quirks, Ni No Kuni isn't an easy game to beat. Some of the bosses are genuinely challenging, and at times you will find yourself struggling and feeling stuck, which on the surface of it isn't good, but at the same time there's never a bleak moment, and the light-hearted charm of the game always shines through and just makes you think, no, I'm gonna beat this. And anyway, what's the point of buying a game if it's just gonna let you blast through it in 40 minutes? A game's not good unless you feel like you've had to put in a worthwhile slog to get to the end. I think overall, Ni No Kuni provides enough challenge and fun to ensure hours and hours of tireless gameplay, and the level of detail in the visual and fantastical world is just brilliant. Studio Ghibli never do anything by halves, and you can really feel that dedication in this game. It always seems like there's another layer to unravel, and you'll find yourself caring enough about the characters and their world to keep you coming back again and again. And that is enough geekery for today, but if you're a fan of RPGs or a fan of Studio Ghibli, or both, I recommend you check it out, you won't regret it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the painful amount of detail I went into in contrast to most of the other reviews that seem to skim over most of the battle related stuff. And if you have any other games you want me to review, drop me a line. I'm gonna play Ni No Kuni. Bye!